G'day there guys, sometimes it takes me all day to get nothing done, and let me tell you, it is quite the effort. Welcome back to another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now, if you love today's content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, a like on the video, and tell me what you think of all these posts down in the comments. Posted by user Ashamed Project, titled, Am I the a-hole for not telling my wife my parents were cousins? My 26 male parents have been happily married for 30 years. Neither of them had known they were cousins and found out 2 years into their relationship. Their mothers, who were sisters, had lost contact after each of them ran away at different times from their strict super religious households. The day they met, it was almost in an instant that both of them knew they were each other's siblings. That day was filled with a lot of chaos and ended up with the breakup of my parents. However, 5 months into the breakup, they both realized they couldn't do it and they got back together. My mother's mum supported them, whereas my father's mum had not and disowned my father. A year after that, my parents got married and had my sister and I. Just a month ago, my father had passed away from heart complications, and it hit my mother really hard, and she was absolutely broken. This week we had a tiny funeral, only 10 people, for him, and everything was going smooth until his mother showed up. My aunt had brought her along. This created a huge shouting match with my mother, aunt, and grandmother. In this, they disclosed the fact that my parents were cousins. My wife looked at me in shock and asked me if that was true. I told her yeah, and she said to wait for a conversation about this when we got home. Well, we got home and she just started crying, saying that it was disgusting that I was the product of incest and how I couldn't have told her and why I didn't trust her. I truly don't believe that my parents' relationship defines me as a person. I've tried to ignore that fact for my whole life, and it was a really uncomfortable topic. I told her that I had the right to keep it to myself, but she just screamed that I didn't, and that what if we had a child and it could have complications because of me, although the chances of that are extremely low. I still stood my ground that it was my right, but my wife just continued to cry as she told me that we were going to take a break. I'm heartbroken because I didn't think that part of me defined me, and to know that she was taking a break from me because of that reason really hurt. I talked to my sister about this, and she said that I was the a-hole and should have told my wife, as she told her husband. She said it's not something I should have hidden because it was a deal breaker for many. I'm really tired of having my parents' relationship define me as a person, and I don't think I'm the a-hole for not telling my wife. I haven't had any contact with my wife, but I know that if she were to forgive me, I'd have to apologize. And even though it may sound so petty that I'm putting our relationship on the line, I don't think I need to give any apology. I would like another view on this because my mind's racing. Although, throwaway because my wife knows my Reddit. I'm not defending OP by saying this. I'm just saying this looks like an entire mountain of denial that you've been climbing up your entire life, OP, and you don't want to jump off that mountain right now because you're using it as a defense mechanism. This is not the hill you want to die on. You know that there are negative consequences of having kids when you yourself are the product of incest. That is a huge bombshell to be hiding from your wife, and she has every right to be pissed off now that you've told her. That part of you absolutely does define you. I know it shouldn't, but genetically, it absolutely does. I don't blame her for taking a break from you either. I would be very riled up if that were to happen to me. You do need to give an apology to her, OP, and I don't know if this relationship will last, because that is a deal breaker for a lot of people. I don't know what to say. You're the a-hole. Edits. I fully understand that I was in the wrong. This was my wife, and I should have told her. Keeping this away from her was a betrayal of trust. However, my parents being a product of incest was always a sore spot for me. I wrote this in the post, but I exceeded the word limit, therefore I took it off. But when I was in high school, this information of my parents leaked. My sister told it to a friend, and in the small town I lived in, it spread like wildfire. I would get bullied constantly for it, on top of already getting bullied for being small and skinny. The bullying was horrible, and I was hospitalized once from it for broken ribs. That instance emotionally scarred me, and I went through therapy to overcome it. While in therapy, my therapist wanted me to know that my parents didn't define me, their relationship had nothing to do with me. My parents were their own people, and I was my own person. After those years of therapy, I left with that mentality. Why should my parents affect me? So, you guys were right. Although I was saying my parents didn't define me, if that was true, I shouldn't have kept it a secret. I knew they defined me, and I was scared of my girlfriend, now wife, leaving me. Perhaps I made it worse withholding this information. I've contacted my wife, but her sister said to give her a couple more days to gather her thoughts, and when she does, I will apologize. Thank you for showing me that I was in the wrong. Edit. Turns out a couple days means minutes. We are getting divorced. She can't live with the fact that her children would be disgusting freaks. Ow. Oh god. That's... Ow. Whoa. Oof. Well, your parents' relationship does define you if you think you have to keep it a secret. And incest being a huge taboo, and with health ramifications, one would think it ought to be mentioned to the person you're getting married to. So yeah, you're the a-hole. There are technically potential health ramifications from the cousin's marriage, but they are low to begin with, and OP marrying outside of the family means any of his hypothetical children have basically the same odds of complications, illness, and disability as anybody else. That said, if he didn't tell her because he didn't think it mattered, that'd be one thing. Intentionally hiding it because he knows it would bother her is another, and does make him an a-hole. His wife's response seems totally disproportionate though. Everyone sucks here. Posted by user ThrowawayXCXO. Titled, Am I the a-hole for financially supporting my brother's ex-wife? For the past 3 years since moving to the States, I've gotten close to my sister-in-law, now former, as I live only a 10-15 minute walk from her. I used to believe that she was some terrible woman who abused my brother and kept him apart from his children, but the past 3 years have been an eye-opener to say the least. My brother figured out a legal way to not support his former wife and barely supports his children. They have 4 kids, and he pays just under $380 monthly, even though he can afford to pay way more and should be paying more. I never had a relationship with my ex-sister-in-law because I lived in another country at the time, and so we had met once at the wedding and only spoken on the phone a few times. My whole perception of her was based on my brother's, stepmother's, and father's BS stories. When I moved to where I live now, I noticed that my ex-sister-in-law was really struggling and decided that I would give her money monthly to help out with the kids. My brother recently found out because my niece told him that she needed a new laptop and shoes, and he told her that he pays her monthly enough to be able to buy this for her, so she should ask her mother. And she replied, "No worries, Dad, I'll ask Auntie." He then decided that I made him look bad and has demanded I stop helping them because he pays her enough. I basically told him that I can do what I want with my money and will continue supporting nibblings and ex-sister-in-law. My stepmother and father have gotten on his side and are demanding I stop dealing with that tramp. During our heated arguments, I told my stepmother that her son was a disgrace and her and Dad needed to stop enabling his bullcrap. Several people have told me that I'm in the wrong for inserting myself, that's what he said, and that I am emasculating my brother and attacking his relationship with his children as a provider. Am I in the wrong in supporting my ex-sister-in-law? I think, OP, you can do whatever the hell you want with your money. If that's supporting your ex-sister-in-law because she can't afford to raise her kids and can't afford anything nice because he found a legal loophole, then screw him. They can't control you, they can't control your money. You seem like the only good person in this story. There is no way that we could flip this unless we turn our brains inside out to the ex-sister-in-law and you being the bad guys here. Oh, you guys are supporting yourself financially? Disgusting. Not the a-hole. He's emasculating himself by not being a father and providing for his children. Good on you for seeing your family suffering and stepping in to help. Exactly. Don't display emasculating behavior if you don't want to be emasculated. Not the a-hole. You are supporting your nieces and nephews and your brother is a jerk. Exactly. They're your family too. It's like when parents split up badly, and then it's the grandparents and extended family that miss out on seeing the kids grow up. Not the a-hole. $380 for 4 kids is impossible to live on, and you're doing the right thing. If he wants to step up and actually help, sure, back off. But till then, spend as much as you want on those kids. They are technically your nieces and nephews, so you are just being a good auntie. It's wrong for them to ask you to ignore people in need. $380 isn't even okay for 1 kid, let alone 4. Not the a-hole. Posted by user Throwaway Somebody. Titled, Am I the a-hole for washing kids' artwork off my property? My neighbor's kids, 7 and 9, vandalized my driveway with elaborate chalk art. I caught them when I came out to walk my dog. They had covered the length of the crosswalk and my, admittedly large driveway completely. Apparently, it was for an online art contest, and they needed the space, and had to take pictures when they were done. I think they, or at least their parents, should have asked me first before claiming my property. I immediately told them to move, grabbed my hose, and washed it off. The older child started to cry very loudly, and the younger followed, and then they ran off. Later in the day, I got a phone call from their mother about how they are heartbroken that I could be so cruel, and that they weren't causing any permanent damage. She said they would have cleaned up after they were done, and I should apologize to them. I think that's besides the point, but I feel like I may be the a-hole because yes, they weren't causing any permanent damage, and I wasn't going to use the space. But I still think I had every right to get the graffiti off my property. Am I the a-hole? Seems like a clear-cut everyone sucks here. They should have asked your permission, and they shouldn't have just done it without asking your permission. But you're the a-hole for hurting kids intentionally when you could have asked them how long it's going to take, and then, got them to clean it up and not hurt feelings. It's just chalk, they weren't actually graffitiing your house, it's something that could easily be removed. You could have waited until later on and not hurt their feelings in front of their face. It just seems really heartless, and most normal people wouldn't do this. You kinda just seem like a heartless husk of a person, OP. Yes, they did you wrong, but I feel like you did them worse. Everyone sucks here, but you suck more. Everyone sucks here. The parents should have made their kids ask first. That would be polite and neighborly. But holy jeez, are you worse? I don't even think that counts as graffiti, and I sure wouldn't call it vandalism. It's chalk, and they are kids. Chalk. Do you deflate the bowls that accidentally land in your yard too? Do you hand out dental floss on Halloween? Do you always go out of your way to be unfriendly? Vandalize. Deliberately destroy or damage. The chalk drawing was deliberate, yes, but your driveway was not damaged or destroyed. In fact, the reason chalk is such a bestseller is because it does neither of those things. You would have had a better argument if you said the kids trespassed and didn't ask for your permission. Instead, you're reaching, so therefore you're the a-hole. Posted by user Silver and Cat. Titled, Would I be the a-hole if I reported a therapist after 1 session? First of all, sorry for formatting, I'm on mobile. I wanted to start therapy because of my not-so-fun childhood, so I registered to an online site where I could pay X amount of money and get a certified therapist, have sessions each week. I was looking forward to our first session. I read a lot about the therapist lady, and she seemed to have great credentials. However, during our first session, she did not ask any questions, and whenever I tried to mention why I wanted to start therapy, she steered the conversation away to her kids. She told me their ages, favorite food, what animals they were searching for on various paintings in a museum, etc. I am child-free, and that was already mentioned in my introduction that I sent before the session, so it would have been obvious that I can't share similar stories. I just wanted someone professional to listen to me, but instead I got to listen to the 1-hour introduction of her kids. Even when I mentioned something personal and disturbing from my childhood, so maybe she would ask, "What?" or something, she just kept talking about the spices her kids don't like. I was polite and didn't complain. However, I feel like I wasted my money. I cancelled my subscription and pretty much gave up on therapy. Would I be the a-hole if I reported her to this site so that they'd know she's not really caring about patients? Or am I just making this about me again, and should I have waited for more sessions to talk about my issues? She sounds like she needs therapy. What is she doing? Yes, I was really messed up when my grandmother threatened me as a child. Oh my god, do you want to hear about my kids? So there's this one spice that they really like? I just can't see why a therapist thinks that's okay to do. It's I'm just gonna ignore you. We're gonna heal you by ignore therapy? That will work. I wouldn't hesitate to ask for my money back and report her for not doing her job. It's just so unprofessional and unnecessary, and frankly, it's dangerous if the right person gets the wrong help. It to me sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. This woman needs to be slapped down or needs to be removed from this website and from therapy in general. Find a different career, lady. Edit/update. I sent feedback to the site, as many of you suggested. Basically reported the conversation as unhelpful. I don't want anyone else to go through the same as I, so I hope that they will review her therapy style and give her some feedback. Thank you, you breathtaking humans, for the support. Not the a-hole. That's not professional behavior. Maybe quarantine is just being hard on her? When you are looking for therapists, it's important to find someone that you click with, and someone who monopolizes the time does not seem to fit the bill. I would report it, but if I were you, I would just report what happened rather than making inferences about how much she cares about her patients. Your complaint will be taken more serious if it's more factual. This is an excellent advice. Thank you. I usually tend to stick with the facts. No emotions involved in my arguments because of the said childhood, so it will not be a problem. I hope you don't give up on therapy. One bad experience doesn't mean that all therapists are like that. It took me 2 or 3 months before I found one I liked, but I've heard of people going through way more until they found one who clicked. Keep it up. You deserve someone who will listen. I remember a therapist I so disliked and would be internally rolling my eyes as she spoke, but it was when I was young and didn't yet know how to advocate for myself. I stuck it out of politeness. I had a psychiatrist I really liked, but he's in prison now, and I haven't actually found another who actually helps. I wasn't going to read the story, but it's too interesting not to read it. So, Suspiciously Formal says, I would like to hear the rest of this story. Nothing too interesting. I had a psychiatrist that I'd see every week. One day in 2012, I showed up to an appointment, and after an hour of waiting, the guy in the office next door came out and told me that my doctor is gone and he didn't have any further information. I tried going to the other doctors, but since they didn't have my records or any records of my diagnosis, they wouldn't prescribe me my meds, even with the pharmacy confirming my script. Turns out my doctor was under investigation for having sex with an 18-year-old patient of his. It's illegal for a psychiatrist to have sex with someone in their care, so he surrendered his license and fled the country. He ended up in New Zealand and set up a practice after lying to get his license transferred. He refused to answer any attempts at contact from me or other doctors. When New Zealand was made aware that he lied about his license status, or investigation, not really sure, he was sent back to the US, stood trial, and was convicted of sexual assault in the 2nd degree. Oh, and he was a mass shooter's psychiatrist, and I was an EMT who responded to the call via mutual aid. Only found that out by Googling him. So I ended up having a nervous breakdown. Spent years seeing different doctors trying to find a provider that would treat me and not give me meds that don't work, I'm allergic to, or give me bad reactions. I still don't have my meds. I'm fed up with doctors, and I spent last week calling the prison and my old state's crime division to see if I could get a letter or copy of my records or something, because it's been years and my issues have only gotten worse. except for a short amount of time after my breakdown. Basically, he fled the country before the Department of Health took possession of his records. The people at the prison say that they would talk to his counselor, but no promises. It was suggested I write to him in prison, which I had to Google how, to try to get a letter or something with my DX on it, and I have an appointment with a new doctor in 62 days, and if this one doesn't work, I give up on all doctors altogether. Okay, and I think that's where we're going to end today's episode, guys. As always, I do hope you enjoyed it, and maybe even learned something from these stories. Just want to say a quick shout out to my Patreon subscribers and my channel members. You guys should be on the screen right now. If you do see yourself, I want you to give yourself a little pat on the back for being amazing and supporting me on this channel, this little journey we're going on the YouTubes. I really appreciate it, and you guys enabled me to do all this amazing work. So if you do see yourself, I love your face and I'm happy to see you. Also guys, if you want to pitch in your own support, you don't have to, but channel links are down in the description below to support the Patreon, the channel membership, whatever you want to do. It's kind of like tipping me if you feel like I'm doing a good job on this channel. I will be opening up avenues for content on those in the future. Just right now I'm kind of bogged down and stuck in Ireland, but you know, it is what it is. Anyway, guys, with that said, I do hope you have a wonderful day today. Whatever you're up to, I'd love to know down in the comments below. I do hope you have a good day, night, sleep. Whatever you're up to today, tell me, and I'll see you in the next episode, guys. Bye.